And here we have something that is a bit more in line with what I was thinking, much more promising, something we can definitely work off of and build off of. Again, if you're watching along on video, you're seeing our new landing page here, which is called Design Beyond Boundaries. And I do really like kind of what they're doing here with the kind of boundaries and directional theme. The animation that's going around on a rotation axis, things like that. So again, much closer to what I kind of envisioned. Still definitely some things that need to be tightened up and need to adhere closer to the original prompt. You know, my ideal goal would be to make this much more interactive, prompting the user to actually interact with the page to reveal different aspects of the design as they go. I'm really aiming for kind of an immersive digital experience with this type of landing page, much more rather than a highly converting sales page. What is up, everybody? Welcome to another episode of the AI Marketing Navigator. This is your daily compass in the ever-evolving world of AI marketing. Okay, Navigators, back tonight and starting with a little bit of what I guess you could call a Claude confessional here, at least at the beginning part of this episode. Honestly, starting this off by humbly saying I feel kind of dumb and a little embarrassed because I've been reflecting and still thinking about our Claude 3.7 Sonnet episode from the other night. And the more I reflect on it and the more feedback that I get from users on X, the more I realize that I completely failed to basically practice all of the things that at one time or another we have preached on the AI Marketing Navigator. And I'll kind of get into all of the reasons why I think that happened, and you can call them excuses if you want to. They kind of are. And I'll do that in a second. But first, huge shout out to all of the users on X, primarily the couple that have responded when I reached out last night in confusion and honestly frustration, again, and really ignorance, as embarrassing as that is, wondering why I wasn't one-shotting these amazing creations into existence like I was seeing on social media and doing all the research that I do for all of our episodes. So again, shout out to these users, particularly Delusional at AGI from Walmart and Chris K. And I'm going to link to their profiles in the show notes so I can make sure to give them the credit for basically reaching out and kind of giving us a course correction or getting us back on track, giving feedback to be more detailed, provide more information, do more research, really nail down every aspect of what you want Claude to build. It was at AGI from Walmart who said that Claude is a god in one-shotting right now. When you have a prompt idea, just put it into Claude itself and have Claude prompt Claude. So just prompt Claude to prompt Claude. And this is something that we have certainly mentioned on the show. Again, I'm kicking myself feeling all sorts of silly and dumb for not initially approaching our prompt like that. So again, huge grateful shout out for the insight. And also to Chris K, who in their case, they said, be hyper specific, draft your prompt like a product spec, detail every screen and feature and nuance, use deep research in O3 and allow the model to ask clarifying questions, which is a big one that you're going to see coming up here in a little bit when we go over the prompts and the code that we did in our latest attempt to kind of build a dream landing page, as it were. So again, huge grateful shout out for the insight and kind of basically reframing and re-emphasizing the concept that these models are extremely good at doing very specific things at this point, and now they're getting more and more generally good, especially as we approach these hybrid models and the unified intelligence models. But to focus on what they're really good at right now and to use them to their full extent. Don't rush into it, which is exactly what I did the other night. And there's all sorts of reasons, again, why I'm kind of beating myself up and wondering why it was that I failed to practice what we preach here. And I think, as I mentioned in a little bit in yesterday's episode, I definitely got caught up in the hype effect, which happens to me frequently when it comes to AI. But I also spend so much time every day just doing the research, getting an episode up and published, sharing the information, that I often don't get to spend nearly as much time as I would like actually in the tools, doing the work, practicing the implementation and experimenting between getting the show up and the day job and the agency job and the parenting job. I realized that not enough time is being made for actually using these tools that we talk about every day. So that's something that I'm certainly aiming to change and work on. And again, one of the best ways to learn, or at least for me, the best way to learn is by doing and getting your hands dirty. And that's really why I fell in love with AI and got so passionate about it in the first place, was by using it. Anyway, just refocusing on the practice, on the doing, and the learning by doing going forward. So anyway, enough of the pity party and the excuses. Just wanted to kind of set the stage for this new reconsidered approach at testing out Claude 3.7, particularly in Replit, but basically at trying to build a dream landing page. So what I've done starting with Claude 3.7, I just asked it to build us a prompt for ChatGPT's deep research agent and O3. And I went back and forth a few times with Claude to get exactly the prompt that I wanted. But the goal of the prompt was to direct ChatGPT's deep research agent to build a product specification document. So I have linked to the prompt thread where we got that detailed prompt, and I fed it right into ChatGPT with the deep research function clicked on with deep research enabled. And right away, the model did the other thing that I mentioned earlier that Chris K recommended we do, which was allow the model to ask follow-up questions. And I forgot to even include that when I initially asked Claude to build that prompt. But ChatGPT o3 Mini with deep research enabled immediately followed up with a bunch of amazing questions, which we, again, should have addressed in the initial prompt. And I'm really glad it did. And I'm really glad it's keeping me in line on prompting. And this is exactly the type of stuff that you need to kind of reinforce as a practice as you're using these tools. So again, here are the follow-up questions that ChatGPT o3 hit us with. 1, the target audience and industry. Is this landing page intended for a specific industry? Understanding the context will help tailor the animations and interactions. 2, interactivity scope. Should the page be fully interactive, or should certain elements remain primarily decorative while others respond dynamically? 3, tech stack preferences. Do you have any preferred programming language? 4, accessibility considerations. 5, performance priorities. Again, these prompts are all going to be linked in the show notes, so if you want to read further into these questions. But again, all very pertinent and very important. 6, AI and machine learning integration. 7, the implementation depth. And you'll see the response in the follow-up, or the responses to the follow-up questions in that thread as well. You'll also see how I frequently say thank you and please to the models. So you can roast me for that if you want, but I think it's a pretty common practice, interestingly enough, with people who are using these models, and maybe that's a topic for another episode on another day. One thing that you might notice if you do end up going through any of these shared prompts is I keep running into the limit in the Claude response length when I have it generated or when I have it working on directives or coding examples. So firstly, if any of you out there have the solution to that or any kind of tips to work around that, let me know. That would be incredibly helpful. But what I'm doing for now is simply kind of doing my own little workaround. I'm asking Claude to continue writing the documentation, picking up where the previous artifact left off. And I specifically, after mistakenly having said continue to the model a few times, continue working, it kept re-editing the same artifact. So when I said create a new artifact that starts at the ending point of the previous artifact, then it seemed to kind of pick up on what I was going for and to continue writing out the documentation, which was incredibly long. And so what we're going to end up submitting here to the Replit agent is very detailed, and what I'm going to try and submit in a one-shot into Claude if possible. I still want that to be a part of our test here tonight, just to see if we can get that to work with our new approach here. But our main test is going to be seeing what we can do in Replit. And I actually had to do this a couple of times as far as the continuing of an artifact when we were creating this detailed prompt. And also when we were creating each individual file for the landing page implementation, the HTML and the CSS and the JavaScript. So I'm going to still technically count this as a one-shot because we did just tell it to continue doing what it was already doing in creating these new artifacts. Anyway, right now, if you are watching along on video, we are actually seeing the initial one-shot attempt by Claude, and it didn't quite arrive at what I was hoping to one-shot. So still on that quest to one-shot an amazing animated landing page in Claude 3.7 Sonnet in the artifact directly. It also failed to create just a single one-page experience, which we prompted it to do. So a couple of balls dropped. I don't think it's too revolutionary, certainly as far as design goes or animation or anything like that. So we still fell a little bit short. Maybe we went a little overboard with our documentation in detail this time. Anyway, rest assured, we will still be trying to nail these one-shot prompts and doing different other use cases. But for tonight's episode, trying to build our dream landing page, let's go over into Replit and take a look at what Replit did in one go. And here we have something that is a bit more in line with what I was thinking, much more promising, something we can definitely work off of and build off of. Again, if you're watching along on video, you're seeing our new landing page here, which is called Design Beyond Boundaries. And I do really like kind of what they're doing here with the kind of boundaries and directional theme, the animation that's going around on a rotation axis, things like that. So again, much closer to what I kind of envisioned. Still definitely some things that need to be tightened up and need to adhere closer to the original prompt. You know, my ideal goal would be to make this much more interactive, prompting the user to actually interact with the page to reveal different aspects of the design as they go. I'm really aiming for kind of an immersive digital experience with this type of landing page, much more rather than a highly converting sales page. And as we scroll down the little demo page, again, this is just kind of a demo page right now, you can see that there's some incomplete elements or some design elements that aren't quite built out correctly, like with the services and the work that's been done. And so the portfolio and the animations aren't quite there yet. So again, this is obviously very beginning stages and we'll need some iteration, which is exactly what we talked about in yesterday's episode as well. But again, huge shout out to the X users, the feedback from Chris K and Delusional, and really just thanks to any of you navigators who are out there listening and watching, tagging along on the journey, bearing with me as we continue to practice with these tools every day that we talk about and learn about together, which again is my big takeaway from the last couple days. And today, especially, I think that should be the takeaway for tonight's episode as well. Don't get too bogged down in all of the new features and the new tools that are hitting us daily. And this is something that we talk about a lot too, this deluge of information and content and education that we are all trying to keep up with. Just focus, focus, focus. Focus on the tools and the workflows that you think could be impactful or that you are interested in or that work for you, and actually work them. Get your hands dirty. And that's what I'm going to be doing more of. We're trying to do more every day. I think I'm definitely going to continue building out on this landing page, and we'll probably highlight it again, hopefully in some episodes to come. Okay, that's going to do it for today's episode. If you enjoyed the show or found it useful in any way, please do me a favor and follow on Spotify or subscribe on your podcast platform of choice. A review on top of that would be even more appreciated and is by far the most helpful thing you could do for the show. Also, if you are watching on YouTube, make sure to hit that subscribe button and turn on all notifications so you get notified each day when our episode drops. Until then, and as always, thank you so much for joining me, and remember to stay curious, stay consistent, and keep navigating forward. Bye.